Coming up in Global Business. Working together, Chinese Premier Li Qiang tells Summer Davos innovation-driven cooperation is vital to boost global growth. Opening up, the China Chamber of International Commerce reveals plans to help Chinese firms expand globally during the ongoing Supply Chain Expo in Beijing. And panda progress. The scale of panda bonds issued is expected to hit a record high this year. We find out what's driving the surge. Welcome to Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Vivienne Nunes. Chinese President Xi Jinping has called for solid measures to advance the modernisation of agriculture and rural areas. He made the remarks during an inspection trip to the city of Dezhou in East China's Shandong province.
With the summer sowing season underway, farming activities are in full swing across the Chinese countryside. President Xi visited the village of Dongyujia in Dezhou. He received a briefing on the local summer harvest and planting efforts and inspected integrated water and fertilizer management facilities. Xi also spoke with local farmers. He was pleased to learn that wheat yields have increased again this year and that corn planting has grown rapidly. She stressed that ensuring a stable supply of grain and other important agricultural products remains the top priority of agricultural production. He called for the full implementation of support policies for grain production, efforts to ensure the supply and stable pricing of agricultural inputs, and the wider adoption of advanced and practical crop varieties, technologies, and equipment to steadily improve yields and efficiency, with the goal of securing another bumper grain harvest this year. He also emphasized the need to improve agricultural infrastructure, ensure the quality of high-standard farmland development, advance water-saving and efficiency-enhancing measures in agriculture, strengthen weather forecasting and disaster monitoring and early warning systems, and enhance the capacity for disaster prevention, mitigation, and relief in the agricultural sector. She also visited the neighboring village of Xiyujia. At the village service center, he inquired about grassroots party organization building and public service delivery, and learned about local efforts to advance rural revitalization. She expressed hope that village party organizations would continue to play a leading role, mobilize local residents, and achieve further progress in building livable, business-friendly, and beautiful rural communities. He also called for reducing burdens on grassroots officials so that village cadres can devote more time and energy to serving the people and promoting development. At the home of one family, she sat down for a casual conversation. He asked about their employment and income, the health of elderly family members, and the education of their children. He also sought detailed information on whether the party's policies had been fully implemented at a grassroots level. She noted that a correct approach to assessing official performance must be measured by the benefits delivered to the people. He called on party members and officials to strengthen their sense of public service, deepen their commitment to the people, and enhance people's sense of gain, happiness, and security. As she departed the village, local residents gathered to see him off. She wished the villagers continued success in building a more beautiful hometown and enjoying ever-improving lives under the leadership of the party.
Chinese Premier Li Qiang has called for closer global cooperation in innovation at the opening plenary of the 17th annual meeting of the new champions of the World Economic Forum, also known as Summer Davos. Li Qiang was speaking in Dalian, northeast China's Liaoning province. Our reporter Wu Bin has this story.
Highlighting the role of innovation, Chinese Premier Li Qiang says that China will keep pursuing high-quality development driven by innovation and its integration with industries.
This year marks the start of the 15th five-year plan. During this period that ends in 2030, we will further strengthen research on key technologies. We will significantly raise the proportion of basic research funding. We will continuously enhance the capability of regional innovation. All this will provide an inexhaustible source of energy of innovation and high-quality development of China's economy.
Themed on innovating at scale, the Summer Davos 2026 in Dalian focused on how innovation in each industry can be transformed to economic growth. China, as Premier Li said, will provide more development opportunities to the world with its technological progress and industrial upgrading.
China has East data and then West computing, right? So in that policy-wise, you're using locations similar to Mongolia as for data centers. So Mongolia has cold weather, as I earlier said, plus the land and then mineral resources, and plus green energy resources that will allow us to be a lot more compatible with Chinese policy.
Li also says the innovation of China will bring the world China Opportunity 2.0.
For enterprises around the world, China Opportunity 2.0 means comprehensive innovation empowerment and high-yield investment opportunities. We're seeing a growing number of foreign companies coming to China, shifting from produce in China to create in China.
Participants of the meeting echoed this message.
Yeah, I see the same. I mean, innovation is what drives us forward as mankind. We are depending on in our businesses and our lives that we always have new innovations. And I think we have to look at it as an opportunity, even if it can be scary sometimes, with all the changes that we have to go through. So we are embracing that innovation, and we think that investing here in China, it's investing in the future.
Since it began in 2007, the Summer Davos has established itself as a truly global event in China, convening the next generation of new champions to exchange views of the latest industry trends, to observe China's next phase development, and to inject confidence into the global economy. CGTN, Dalian, Liaoning Province.
Premier Li Qiang is sending a clear message to the international community. China Opportunity 2.0 is here, and it offers massive growth potential for global businesses. We spoke with business leaders from Bain & Company, EY and Yara International about how to build a true global ecosystem in this new landscape.
Opportunity 2.0 is not a one-way street, not as a competition, but more as an opportunity to collaborate and find the places of reinforcing strength. If companies don't move to electric vehicles, they will have a risk. And that risk is what we might call, zombification, is that they are last in a market that doesn't exist anymore. So this competition is maybe also triggering a change and a kind of an industrial revolution that we will see in many of these markets.
The central government has been promoting what we call high-quality opening up. So that's very important for foreign investor or whoever are interested to invest in China to understand, the policy and all, I would say, the rules and regulations around it. We are talking about how to build local market capabilities. That means it's actually a change from going out to going in. Building a true global ecosystem means going beyond supply chains to connect markets, capital, talent, as well as compliance.
It's about creating synergies here. How do we get benefits from scale? I mean, given the size of the market here in China, but combining that with technologies that we have developed in Europe. This is about collaboration and thinking about we have to be prepared that geopolitical tension will continue. So it's about strengthening the value chains for producing, but also about shortening the supply chains. Of course, trade is important. Trade is key in order to sustain societies, but it's also about creating stronger local supply chains, both here in China, but also in Europe and worldwide.
Speaking to CGTN at the Summer Davos Forum, McKinsey's Greater China Chairman Zhou Ngai pointed to China's unmatched integration of advanced supply chains and risk-taking consumers as the world's premier innovation engine. At the same time, he noted Chinese firms are transitioning from global producers into global corporate citizens.
Let me get your quick reaction first to what the Premier said at the opening plenary. He said there is no China shock. It's about China Opportunity 2.0. What's your thought on that?
I think that he has always said that, look, China is open for business. We want more collaboration, right? We are a stabilizing force for the world. And I think today when he said that there's no China shock, but look, it's an opportunity for you, I think that's very consistent with what he has been saying all along. And which I think is a very interesting one, right? If I were a multinational company and then look at all these very competitive Chinese companies, of course you can think about, they are a threat to me. But I think that the most underrated opportunity is how do I think about the competitiveness of China as part of my ecosystem? How does all these things make me better? And that's where I think the Premier has it right in terms of you're going to flip your thinking.
The conventional wisdom is, or was perhaps, that China is pretty good at going from 1 to 100, excellent at going from 1 to 100, relatively weaker going from 0 to 1. Based on what you're seeing right now in terms of EV, biotech, pharma, robotics, is that still true? And do you think China has the capability one day to not only go from 0 to 1, but from 0 to 100 fast?
Well, I think it is not a trade-off. I think in the AI world, I think that if we think about the world's leading, I think we are almost there, right? Maybe 6 months behind, right? But then if I think about things like physical AI, right, robotics, if I think about pharmaceutical innovation, if I think about many of this material science, if I think about some of these green energy, look, I think that China is no longer only 1 to 100. Of course it is. And of course the 1 to 100 is still going much faster, but there are plenty of 0 to 1 also happening. So I think just like everything else in China, I think that you see progress on both ends, right? You see the progressing on the 1 to 100 commercialization, the scaling. Of course, that's still happening at scale, faster than ever before, right? And this is the world's most competitive market. But at the same time, on the 0 to 1, you do see plenty of things happening in there too. Because as we grow a bit more leading edge, as we have more scientists and researchers and more money and more things flowing on that end, our universities are coming up with a lot more research that are commercializing. We are now, leading the world in patents, right? In a lot of areas, we're leading the world in a lot of areas where, frankly, right, there's no one who's putting as many resources as we are in these places.
Global pharma giant Novartis is expanding its footprint in China, betting on the country's rise as a powerhouse for pharmaceutical innovation. Our reporter Yu Bo-kun spoke with Novartis China President Leo Li at Summer Davos about the company's strategy and China's evolving role in healthcare innovation.
I know that Novartis has been announced a major investment in China recently. So what does the company see in China market to continue to support your long-term growth?
We're very excited about the China market. We have been actually in China now for about 140 years. And I think you know very well, our name itself, Nuohua, means a commitment to China. I think for us, we focus on 4 therapeutic areas in cardiovascular disease and treating cancers, immunology, and also neurology. And in China, we do see that for a healthy China 2030, area of cardiovascular disease and also managing cancers are areas of high unmet medical needs. So from that perspective, we're very committed to ensuring that we bring all of our most important medicines to China to support patients and ensure that patients can have the healthiest, highest quality.
What do you think about China's business environment overall?
So overall, we're very, very positive about the policies in China that is really pro-innovation. We also see that the healthcare system is continuously evolved to mature and to be able to support more and more patients, not only in primary care, but secondary and tertiary. So we think China is an incredibly good environment for innovation of medicines.
China was primarily, for many years, was seen as a big healthcare market. And today, I think China is evolving into an important role in innovation system. So how has China's role in your company evolved over the past years in terms of innovation system?
So I think, probably if you go back over 10 years, China was traditionally importing a lot of innovative medicines and an extremely strong base of generic manufacturing. And I think over the last 10 years, China has gone through an incredible evolution. And especially in the last 2 or 3 years, we started to see that 30% of all biotech clinical development programs are originated in China. So we think China is going to be an incredible engine for driving development of new medicines, not only for Chinese patients, but also for patients outside of China. So from that point of view, we want to be a partner to support Chinese innovation if they want to reach patients outside of China. But within China, we really think that it is really important that we continue to expand our research, development, as well as manufacturing in order to benefit from the incredible ecosystem that exists here today.
Multinational companies remain optimistic about their long-term development and investment in China, especially following China's recent release of more supportive measures to stabilise and optimise foreign investment. Our Ho Jing sat down with Mark Harrison, head of KPMG China's multinational company channel, to find out more.
From your experience serving multinational enterprises, what signals does this newly released document of action plan for stabilizing and optimizing foreign investment utilization send to the foreign investors?
It sounds like a positive announcement. Many of our multinational clients will be happy to hear that and look into the details. In recent years, we've talked a lot with our clients about how do what strategy to adopt for your China business, right? Do you make acquisitions? Do you consider leaving China? There's been many surveys conducted in recent years where probably the number one concern for most multinationals is market access, level playing field. These always come out as concerns that multinationals have. Multinational companies at the moment, they see China as a very stable and reliable market to operate in. I think this can attract more investment, again given this stability that is perceived of China.
You just mentioned about some multinationals, they're considering leaving China. What are the top 1-2 reasons that they consider about this?
Okay, first of all, I really want to address this because it's a misunderstanding. I have many Chinese friends, colleagues, clients who ask me about this question, and they hear or understand that many multinationals are considering leaving China. I know anecdotally it's not true from the work that we're doing. But in the survey I mentioned that we did last year, I mentioned 75% said they were considering investing. Only 1% said they were considering a China exit. But generally speaking, on the rare occasion that we see an exit, it's normally part of a global strategy to exit a business unit. So it's not about China, it's about part of the business. So we've got a multinational who, for example, wants to sell business unit A globally, including China. And actually, to be honest, it's very rare that it's due to a geopolitical reason.
China is stepping up its opening up efforts. The China Chamber of International Commerce on Wednesday launched a Foreign Investment and Cooperation Committee at the ongoing CISCE, aiming to help Chinese companies expand globally in an orderly manner. This came after China unveiled a 15-measure action plan to stabilise and improve foreign investment on Monday, focusing on expanding market access and strengthening services for foreign companies. Officials say existing foreign investment has continued to grow steadily, while new investment has remained generally stable, highlighting the resilience of the Chinese market. Panda bonds, which are renminbi-denominated debt issued by overseas entities in China's domestic market, are set to hit a record high this year, driven by institutional strengths and growing global interest in the renminbi, according to a central bank report. In the first 5 months, issuance reached 136.5 billion yuan, nearly double the same period last year. First quarter trading volume this year surged 93% year on year. The issuer base now includes sovereign entities, international development banks and multinational corporations. Medium and long-term Panda bonds accounted for 61% of issuance in 2025, up 17 percentage points from 2021. Well, for more on the surge in the popularity of Panda bonds, bonds, I'd like to bring in Chu Qiang, a fellow of the Belt and Road Centre at Minzu University of China. Thanks for joining us this evening. What are the main reasons behind this increase in the number of panda bonds being issued, and what does the accelerated issuance tell us about the Chinese market and the RMB, since these bonds are an alternative to USD-denominated debt?
Well, I think there are several reasons behind that. I think the internationalization of the renminbi actually is showing its strengths. First of all, if you take a look at the current interest rate market, you will find out the 10-year T-bond of China is almost about, the yielding rate is about 1.8%. But on the contrary, American T-bond basically stands at 4.3%. So there's about 200 base points. So actually, if you're an investor, you probably know that using Chinese, renminbi for the financing purposes is much more available and much more a better idea. And secondly, we're talking about the opening up policy. So right now, if you take a look at the Central Bank of China, their policies towards, the panda bond market, actually, they've streamlined lots of the procedure. They allow the very flexible use of the cross-border funding, and also they have been setting up the green channel for lots of the players to get into the sport. So actually, more and more people feel, it's much easier to get into this, bond market rather than to go into the T-bond market of the United States. Well, United States T-bond market is okay, but if you were talking about the European bond market or some other some other economies' T-bond market, sometimes it could be much, much difficult to get into that. It's so many procedures, so people don't want to get into that, to get so many troubles. And also, thirdly, I think it's about the handiness of using the renminbi. Well, everybody knows that we have the SIPs, payment system. So currently, with all this kind of petroleum renminbi, with the SIP system, it's much more easier to use renminbi, as we just mentioned. Well, the reason why U.S. bond used to be, U.S. dollar used to be popular is because it's very easy to use it. And now renminbi actually share the same role. And also, I think, last but not least, very, very importantly, is current situation of the whole world. If you take a look at the backdrop of the geopolitical conflicts, you will find out that using U.S. dollar is not just a business choice. It's not only about the economic purposes. It's all about the political, conditions. Sometimes using U.S. dollar means you're handing over the rope on your neck to some other country. If you are not choosing choosing the side right, you probably will get sanctioned. So people start to understand we need a third party, a currency denominated T-bonds to help us to get financing. So Chinese yuan and also the panda bond has become the choices. So all that actually are meaning that whole world has been changing. China has been changing. Actually, China has been leaping forward to internationalize its own currency and try to put more of the handiness functions into the global financing market. So Chinese renminbi actually has been shifting from just a settlement and trade currency to the financing currency. And all that actually been attracting lots of players from Kazakhstan, Germany to Pakistan and even the UK. And also that means people are voting more of the confidence into not only the safety in Chinese political condition, but also voting for, the Chinese financial market. Because when you have enough renminbi in your hand, you probably want to invest into the renminbi denominated market, financial market, for the interest rate, for the yielding rate, for all the kinds of return. So I think the maturity of the Chinese financial market has already won international confidence.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Chu Qiang joining us there. Well, once a mining hub, Yu Village in Anji County has reinvented itself as a thriving tourist destination under the leadership of the village branch of the Chinese Communist Party. Our Aaron Liu reports on its remarkable transformation.
我们淡季的时候，每天接待游客达到100-200人，旺季的时候达到400-500人。我叫潘春林，是一名土生土长的宜春人，今年55岁。18岁的时候，我进入了矿山，成为一名矿工，也是一名拖拉机手。随着矿山的关停，我在宜春开办了第一家农家乐。我们去年宜春接待的游客量达到120万人，趁集体收入达到2700多万。 老百姓的人均收入达到8.1万。
Pan Chenling was the first local to open a homestay here in Yu Village. A CPC member since 2007, he helped fellow villagers explore and develop local hospitality businesses. Today, Yu Village is a well-known tourist spot, but in the 1980s, its wealth came from quarry and aggregate production.
当时这条路啊，只有现在的一半这么大。整个路旁边呢，有点坑坑洼洼的。今天我们回来了以后啊，在矿山上面的时候，早上啊3、4点钟就进入了矿山，整个天空是灰蒙蒙的一片。所以说我们呼进去的空气啊，都是水泥的粉尘。再一个呢，河流里面啊流着白茸茸的石灰水，或者是我们的矿山上流下来的泥浆。就是人的时间长了以后呢，人这个皮质啊，凶性煤烟一样的，很呛的这种感觉。就是我们最大的一次探访，探下的石块全部滚到这里。那个时候整个石块下来以后啊，大的石块比房子还大，这上百吨的。
After the accident, the village came to the difficult decision to shut down its local mines and factories.
关停矿山了之后呢，老百姓就不稳定了，没地方打工要我们老百姓去喝西北风。那个时候我听到这一句话，我感觉到我自己也很难受。我们渔村到底走什么路？
Yu Village has restored over 30 hectares of damaged mountain land and planted 200 hectares of new greenery. In 2021, it was officially named the Best Tourism Village by the UN World Tourism Organization. By 2013, green development became a national priority. Since then, China has launched an unprecedented campaign to shut down polluting industries and restore the environment as part of its development plan.
The Best Tourism Villages of UNWTO 2021 recognized 2 villages in China, Yupun and Pidi.
From just a choke mining area to a village of blue skies and bamboo forests, Yu Village's transformation stands as a powerful model of how ecology and economy can thrive together. Aaron Liu, CGTN, Yu Village, Zhejiang Province.
And that wraps up this edition of Global Business. I'm Vivienne Nunes in Beijing. Thank you for your company.